You're listening to Summer Valley 97.5 FM. My name is Matthew Shern, and over the next hour we're going to look into the function of libraries today within a culture of government cuts. I was inspired to do this feature because I read about Frome Library, which recently had its hours slashed. Even though this was a neighbouring council, I still wanted to find out what was happening with the libraries in the local area and surrounding councils as well. I was also interested in the fact that the government were promoting community-run libraries, which were quite controversial. Some people were upset that councils were offloading services to communities and leaving them to fend for themselves, while others saw this as a way of people freeing themselves from government restrictions. Firstly, I'm going to look into why libraries are important. Now, I asked this to Catherine White, who's a local children's author from Wales.
I think that libraries are the only access children have to books in their free time without having to pay for them. So the books that children have at schools, the books and stories are often connected to classroom work, school work, and they don't always get the same enjoyment out of books within the school environment. But if children have access to a wide range of books in libraries, those books are there for them to enjoy, to read at leisure, and to have fun with, and they can choose what they want. Those books aren't dictated as to what they read by the school.
So you're trying to say that get rid of the libraries, you get rid of any chance of creativity in young people?
Absolutely, exactly. Any free reading, any enthusiasm for whether it's fiction, or my son loves non-fiction books, so he used to read a lot of sort of nature books, absolutely adored dinosaur books and things like that. All that would be withheld from him and other children, and I think it's completely unacceptable.
I talked to June Wentland, who was a reader development officer for Baines Libraries, and I asked her why did she think that libraries were important and what function they have within society.
I mean, I think libraries are absolutely fantastic, and I think, again, with the recession and things, that, again, they become even more important, because I think, for me, libraries were set up as a real sort of equaliser in society, giving people access to information and reading and knowledge and things. I think that's still very, very important. And although people... I think libraries are absolutely essential at the moment, maybe for slightly different reasons to what they were originally, because obviously the internet has made information access a little bit different, really. So now lots of people have computers at home and can get information that once they would have come into the library for. Though obviously computer access is available through the library as well. So for people that don't own computers, it remains a really important way of gaining knowledge from that respect. But I think people come into libraries for different reasons as well. People come into libraries for, a whole variety of different reasons, depending on the individual. And obviously reading for pleasure is a really important aspect of that as well.
I've been talking to some campaigners who were opposed to library cuts, and a lot of them say that in areas where there's a good library service which hasn't been cut, there's greater literacy. Do you agree with that statement?
Well, yeah, I mean, for me, that sort of goes hand in hand, really, libraries with literacy. And I think that, the more that people are around books and wanting to use books and things, I think it's obviously reading sort of helps with literacy anyway. And that, that you can't really divide the two at all.
I then spoke to Lauren Smith from Voices for the Library, who are a national advocacy group who are involved with helping local communities save their libraries. I asked her what groups would lose out when libraries are shut.
It's difficult to say specific groups. Obviously, more vulnerable groups, people on lower incomes who don't have the money to access knowledge and information. And obviously, it will have a huge impact on children. Children who use public libraries are twice as likely to have an above-average reading age, which is research that came out of a piece done by the National Literacy Trust. So it will have an impact on children. It will have an impact on people on low incomes. It will have a huge impact on elderly groups and people who need access to things like large print books, which aren't readily available in bookshops, and they are more expensive to buy. Disabled groups, the RNIB, have recently said that library cuts will have a huge impact on people that they deal with. But these impacts will all then have a huge knock-on effect to wider society, because the next generation of young people will be less literate, have fewer aspirations, because they've not had a civic space that they can visit and share with other people in their communities. They haven't had access to all the information and knowledge that is available in libraries that really broadens people's horizons.
I spoke to David Dixon, who is Communities Minister for Baines Council. He was quite optimistic about the library service within Baines, and he didn't actually hint to any changes to the service. Firstly, I asked him what the local residents thought of the library service.
Well, quite clearly, people like to use our local library, and they do provide, a great resource for people who like to do it as a social aspect, but also, people who like to learn in their libraries. And quite clearly, in some of our libraries, we've got students and all that who go in there to pick up some extra reference books. And they could be students at university or college who maybe the university and colleges and libraries might be full, or they might want just a bit of a change of scene. And some are quite clearly in the libraries as well. We brought in new things such as the internet access is now in the libraries, where people can go in and access a number of sites for free. And just coming up this next week or so, we're doing the summer reading challenge. So people, young kids can sign up to the summer reading challenge, and this year is going to be about circus and so on. So kids can go in and sign up to that one. In Radstock Library, Midsummer Norton Library. And people were during the election quite concerned about what the future held for the Midsummer Norton Library, because it's flooded during the recent, during the floods.
Yeah, it's been closed recently.
Yeah, and
I think it's about reopened.
Reopened it a couple of weeks ago, so it's back up and running on the same hours it was on before.
I then asked him how the library services cope with the fact that local government has less money to spend on services.
We have had to tighten our belts, and quite clearly, within the libraries, we want to actually get them open more often for people, and looking at new ways of doing that a little bit as well is about how you might help with longer opening hours by supplementing people who are keen to volunteer in their local library, for instance. So there's a lot of people out there who have a passion for the library service and have said, if it helps to actually keep this library open longer, I'll be, quite willing to chip in and help that out a little bit. So, hopefully, in next year we might look at some longer opening hours for libraries, and innovative ways of working, such as the hub that's being developed in Porton, which will see a whole load of activities, plus a different offer of a library service out there. So what's happening is the national government cutbacks are making us actually work a little bit smarter in actually delivering the improvements people want. So people want to see more library hours, but we don't have more money to help deliver that.